football. It's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT. I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, I know it's been a little minute, missed a lot these last few weeks, but I'm back on my regular schedule. So if there's anything that I missed that you guys are interested in me talking about, leave a suggestion down below and I'll get to it because I have a lot to catch up on. But wanted to get my thoughts on Kenshiro's fight with Hekkie Budler and just that whole card overall, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about, a lot of noteworthy things to talk about. So let's get to it. Now, we know Kenshiro, he was supposed to fight Jonathan Gonzalez to try to get that third belt. Gonzalez pulled out, so then he had to honor his mandatory challenger in the very tough, very formidable former world champion himself in South Africa's Hekkie Budler. It was a good fight. It was a good fight on paper. And it was a good fight in the ring. You know, Hekkie Budler, I think he was very tough. He tried to bring that pressure to Kenshiro. This is actually probably one of the few times where Kenshiro, as the light flyweight, he was a sizably bigger guy. He was the longer fighter. So this is a fight for Kenshiro where he had to really use his range and try to keep Hekkie Budler from getting on the inside. And it gave Kenshiro the opportunity to showcase that world-class jab of his. He's got one of the best jabs in boxing. He's got one of the best straight right hands in boxing. Budler was doing a very good job, particularly in I think the third or the fourth round, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, just throughout the fight, he had his moments. He had his moments in spots where he would close that gap and he would really begin to get on the inside of Kenshiro. But Kenshiro was able to maintain his composure, maintain an active jab, and more importantly, that laser-guided missile known as his right hand was painting and tattooing Hekkie Budler the entire night, and he eventually wound up getting a stoppage in the 9th round. So you know, it continues to, you know, it's another name on what's been a great resume for Kenshiro. You know, because for those that don't know, Hekkie Budler is a damn good fighter. Hekkie Budler, you know, been a world champion multiple times, has beaten guys like Ryoichi Taguchi and things like that, fighters like that. He's no slouch. He really is a big name when it comes to these divisions, and a guy that you would like to have on your resume. And Kenshiro now has that name on his resume. And if you look at what he's just been able to do in this space of time since he got stopped by Masamichi Ibuki back in September of 2021, in the 4 fights since then, he's gotten all knockouts against Ibuki, against Hiroto Kayaguchi, which so far is the career-defining fight of his career, Anthony Olascuaga, and now Hekkie Budler. So, you know, that's the 11th defense for Kenshiro in his career. And I'm going to make a video about this later on because I want to talk more about his place in the sport because, you know, right now he's got 11 career title defenses, 3 in the second reign. And the only fighters in boxing with more career title defenses that are active right now are Kazuda Ioka, Terrence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, Canelo, and Roman Gonzalez. That's it. You know, and that's the creme de la creme of boxing. So it's not even a point of is Kenshiro a pound-for-pound fighter anymore. Anybody who's watching the sport should put that to bed. He's definitely a pound-for-pound fighter. The question is now, with each passing win, is he a Hall of Famer? Because he's inching. With each passing win, he's building more of that case for the Hall of Fame. So great fight from him. Great fight from Hekkie Budler. Hekkie Budler, you know, he's a guy that's been overlooked. Even I've overlooked him many times because, you know, he's from South Africa. He doesn't really get a lot of the headlines. But damn good fighter. He went in there and he really did his best, put his best foot forward to try to beat Kenshiro. You know, if that's going to be his last fight in the ring, then God bless him. He's had a great career, and we thank him for his service in boxing, if that's it, because he's really been a warrior for the sport and for South African boxing. And he even went on to say in the post-fight interview that Kenshiro is the best fighter he's faced, and he believes he's the best 108-pounder in the world. And Kenshiro is going to have to, you know, get that third belt from Jonathan Gonzalez, and then I ultimately think, hopefully by this time next year, we're talking about Kenshiro versus Svenathi Nochinga, the IBF champion, the other South African fighter in this division, Hekkie Budler's stablemate. So that'll be interesting to talk about as well. But yeah, shout out to the amazing boy. He did his thing. Switching gears, I want to talk about also Junto Nakatani because he's a guy that's been getting a lot of hype in the sport from boxing fans and a lot of the media, and even it's surprisingly enough, like I sit here and I talk about a lot of Japanese fighters, and here in America, like Junto's really starting to get a lot of hype from the boxing community. A lot of people are saying Junto Nakatani is already the second best Japanese fighter behind Inoue, which I think is ridiculous, but that's just my opinion. But he become very, very respected here in the States, due to in part the viral knockout of Maloney, and some of the performances he's already had here. But he fought Argi Cortes, a very tough, very game, and very formidable Argi Cortes. And the same Argi Cortes that a lot of people thought beat Gael Estrada just last year. So it was a really good barometer, a good measuring stick as Junto Nakatani defended his WBO super flyweight title. And in this fight, you saw a lot of the things that get people excited about Junto Nakatani. You know, he's got the size of a guy that could compete as high as 118 or 122. But he retains his strength. He showed good stamina, and he was just breaking this guy down over and over. A lot of thudding, hard shots to the body, to the head. He scored multiple knockdowns in this fight, and you know, for a guy that gave Gael Estrada a hard time, that was not the case with one Junto Nakatani. He beat the brakes off Argi Cortes. The only surprising thing was that Argi Cortes didn't stop Junto Nakatani, or Junto Nakatani didn't stop Argi Cortes. Cortes showed a lot of durability, and I'm sure off this performance and the Gael fight, he's going to get another opportunity to prove himself against another top name in this division. But Nakatani is looking at unification fights. They're talking about him fighting. Sean Gibbons was there out there in Japan, and Sean Gibbons was talking about, you know, Junto maybe unifying the titles with his fighter, his client, the IBF champion, Fernando Puma Martinez, which I love that fight. I think that fight's a very, very fun fight stylistically. You look at as far as what is Junto's weaknesses, and truth be told, I like Junto, but I think people are getting a little carried away, and I do think that he's got some defensive lapses that he needs to start cleaning up, because even in this fight with Argi Cortes, many times, a couple times, more than really he should, he would throw these combinations to the body and to the head, and he would back up right in a straight line. And a couple of times he got caught by Argi Cortes flush. It wasn't like it was a grazing shot or he rolled the shot. No, there were flush shots. And luckily for Junto, he's a bigger guy, and Argi Cortes is not an elite puncher. But when he fights the guys that are a bit more active, at a higher level, you know, championship caliber, just like him, those things could come back to hurt him. You know, so we'll see how it goes. I personally, I do think it, and this is only my opinion, I do think if he doesn't clean those things up, Junto Nakatani is a knockout loss waiting to happen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, really good fighter. I think he's gonna be a tough guy to beat, because even with the defensive lapses, to beat him, you got to be able to withstand what he's dishing out at you, and that's very hard. You got to be made of some different material to endure the kind of beatings he dishes out. But nonetheless, a very good performance in a you know, went the rounds and got a dominant performance. So it's the best of both worlds for Junto in that fight. And then the last two fights I closed out with, and I won't make this too long. You know, Anthony Olascuaga, you know, a fighter that fought Kenshiro Teraji. You know, and I don't even want to say Teraji, because I just like calling him Kenshiro. He fought Kenshiro his last fight for the world title, dropped down in weight to take the opportunity to fight Kenshiro for the world title. Gave him one of his hardest fights. Kenshiro, even himself, when I interviewed him, said that it was what he feels in his career, his hardest fight to date, and his toughest fight to date in Anthony Olascuaga. And in this fight, you know, he was trying to get back to winning ways, taking on the Filipino Giamel Magramo, who had 31 pro fights. So you look at what Anthony Olascuaga is doing in his career. He fought Kenshiro his last fight. Kenshiro, an extremely experienced fighter with, you know, 20-something fights. That was only his fifth fight when he fought Kenshiro. He's fighting this guy who's got 31 fights and only his sixth fight. So Anthony Olascuaga, not a whole lot of fights, but he's packed a whole lot of substance into those 6 pro fights. And they're not putting him in there with no cupcakes. I mean, Magramo hasn't necessarily cracked it at the world level, but when you look at the guys he's fought in his career, you know, he's been there with names we know. He's been there with, you know, he was a former Junto Nakatani opponent a couple years ago in 2020. and also fought Muhammad Wasim, the Middle Eastern fighter that fought Sonny Edwards. So he's been in there with some names in and around these weights, and it was a good test for him. And it was a fight where, you know, from an aggression standpoint, he really struggled. Magramo, I thought, was pushing him back, and it was a lot of back and forth action. But one thing about Olascuaga that I'm learning as I continue to watch him fight and grow and evolve in the sport is that Anthony Olascuaga, one thing about him is, if you're going to beat this guy, you need to be conditioned for the whole duration of the fight, the whole 10 rounds or 12 rounds or however long the fight's going to be, 8 rounds. You got to be ready for it all. Because this guy will catch a second win like he did in the Kenshiro fight and like he did in this fight. You know, a lot of people, some people thought that he was losing or he was down on the cards in this fight with Magramo. And, you know, if that's what you thought, it didn't matter, because in that 7th round, you know, he unleashed the fury and broke this man down, and he got the stoppage. And this fight wasn't at 108, which is where he fought Kenshiro for the title, or 112 where he previously campaigned. This fight was at super flyweight, and you know, if Anthony Olascuaga is gonna be a super flyweight, then man, what an addition to the weight class. There's gonna be a lot of interesting matchups there for him, and you know, he's someone for me. Like when you talk about the young American fighters on the come up, prospects / contenders, to me this guy is one of the most interesting guys to watch in the sport because of his style, because of who he's fought, because of the fact that he's gonna be in the mix and he's gonna be fast tracked. Because once you fight Kenshiro, you can't really go back down. You gotta continue to go up. You know, so a good win from him in a very, very, you know, he showed a lot in the fight. And then last but not least, the kickboxing star Tenshin Nasukawa, he was on the card as well in his second pro fight, taking on Luis Guzman Torres, who was 10-2. And this is really a showcase fight. Co-main event, you know, he's a big star over there. So Tenshin Nasukawa, you know, for those of you who haven't been in Japan, and I learned this when I was in Japan, Tenshin Nasukawa is someone that really and truthfully, he's as big, if not bigger, than Naoya Inoue. So that's why I get the co-main event against a cupcake fighter, you know. But what I can say is this: there's not a whole lot to make, because Guzman Torres didn't give him a lot of resistance. But one thing I can say about Tenshin Nasukawa off rip is just my favorite thing about him, apart from his confidence, because he fights a lot of confidence and he's a bit of a showboat. He's not like a lot of Japanese fighters. A bit of a showboat, plays to the crowd a little bit. He's fun to watch. But from a boxing standpoint, one thing I like in this fight that I've seen is his counterpunching. He's got a great sense of timing. He knows when to make an opponent fall short and then counter back over the top. I think that skill, just so long as he continues to work on that and build on it in the gym, will take him very far. He'll take him as far as possibly can in the sport. Tenshin Nasukawa. So we'll see. He's a featherweight. Obviously, he's a work in progress. He got a knockdown early in the fight. Wasn't able to get the stoppage, went the full distance. But pretty much just a good exhibition of counter-punching and a pretty straightforward fight to watch and to score and things like that. So, you know, looking forward to seeing how Tenshin does as he progresses with the pro ranks. I know he's been sparring with my buddy Angelo Leo, and Angelo's told me good things about him. So, you know, that's what it is. But that's my take, my long-winded take on the Kenshiro Hekkie Budler card. I wanted to get off the mark because it's been some weeks, man. I've been going through it a little bit in life, but it's okay. You know, we can fall 10 times in life. I'll get back 11 times. That's the kind of guy I am. So I'm back on my regular schedule. If you guys want to see any certain types of videos or topics that I didn't talk about, because I know I missed a lot, drop them down in the comments. I'm gonna have 2 other post-fight review videos out today for Zhang Zhilei and Joe Joyce, as well as Richard Hitchens versus what's his name? Jose Zepeda. So you guys be on the lookout for that. Continue to support the channel. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. We're here at the Hatanaka Boxing Gym in Nagoya, Japan. And for more great videos just like this one, make sure you guys click right here.